to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Chad Hufford is joining us live from Alaska, USA, and he is the founder and owner of Veritas Wealth Management, and a boutique financial planning firm that manages $500 million and serves several hundred families across the US. In addition to finance, he regularly teaches and speaks on fitness and faith, seeing these as all important aspects of a purposeful and abundant life. Welcome to the show, Chad.
Hey, AJ, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. Welcome. I'm sure a lot of people, not just in India, but across the globe, will be able to benefit from what you are going to share, your wisdom about financial planning, about how one can make sure that, they never run out of purpose or money in retirement. So to ask you, Chad, my first question is, a lot of people wait for retirement so that they can enjoy their life. And a lot of people do not want to retire because they don't have enough money in the bank. So what would you say? Why are these people, one is about the purpose that people want to retire and then enjoy their life and fulfill the purpose that they have got in their mind. And those people are there who don't want to retire because of lack of money. Why is it the case? What one is doing good, what the other one is not doing good, whereas both have been working as hard as possible in their peak years of life.
Well, I think, so you mentioned, AJ, some people don't want to retire because they don't have enough money. I think it's a realization that they really can't retire. It's not that they don't want to, it's they don't have the freedom to do that. And we actually started putting out a concept and trying to teach the folks who work with a concept, not so much of retirement, but of a work optional life, where if you continue to work, it's not because you have to, it's because you want to, but you no longer need your paycheck or your business or your income in order to maintain your lifestyle. Your savings, your investments can support your lifestyle without you having to go out and work. But that takes years and years and years of planning and patience and resilience. And we tell people it's like planting an orchard. The trees don't grow overnight. And no one tree is going to make or break you. There's not one tree that makes you wealthy or makes you financial independent. It's all those little seeds, all those little trees that people plant over years and years and years that eventually grow into something that they can live off of. And our idea of financial independence is such that you create your orchard large enough, you plant enough trees, so to speak, that when you're drawing from the wealth, you don't actually consume the principal. You don't eat into your wealth. You just live off the income it produces, which means people can live in a work optional lifestyle indefinitely. They don't have to worry about outliving their money, running out of money. They just have to make sure that they spend enough time building this up large enough that it can sustain them indefinitely, and then continue to live within their means when they do eventually leave their job, leave their career.
Right, Chad. You talk about creating a better relationship with the future you. When is this time to, know about this? What is the time? Is it up in the 20s? It is in the 30s? Or is it when you are close to retirement? And why is it that people are not able to build that relationship when they know that this is one place they all have to reach and deal with that person who is waiting for you?
That's a great question. And that's something I'm still trying to figure out. Why do people treat the future version of themselves almost like another person? It's almost like it's a stranger. So your question about when do the people need to be developing this relationship with their future self? It's right now. I don't care what age you are. I don't care if you're 75 or 17. So somebody getting ready to go into college and racking up a bunch of debt, taking on unnecessary student loans, maybe just going to college. They don't know what they want to study, but they feel like everybody else is going to the local university. They are too. They're switching majors, and fast forward a few years, maybe in their early 20s, they have tens of thousands, maybe $100,000 in debt, and no degree, or a degree they can't really use. That decision is going to impact decades down the road. So it doesn't really matter what age you are. People have to start today creating a better relationship with their future self. And there's a disconnect. There's a huge disconnect between who I am today and who I am in the future. And what it does is it causes us to make a lot of short-term decisions that are often harmful. We often choose the easy wrong over the hard right, meaning we do what's easy in the moment, which is usually not as beneficial and may even be harmful in the long term, rather than doing what's difficult in the moment that has a long-term payoff. And this is true in finance, it's true in health and nutrition, it's true in business and relationships. Um, People typically don't choose to do what's difficult in the moment, even if it's best for them in the long run. And one of the things that we do to try to help people overcome that is make the future more tangible. Have them come up with specific long-term goals, and not just financial goals, but what they want their life to be like, who they want to become, where they want to be, um, those types of things, and creating more of a connection with that future version of them.
Absolutely. And the difficult part is, how do you create that connection with your future version, who you almost treat like an alien? And at the same time, Chad, you talk about that building a better future is about what you remove from your life than what you add. So how does this work? When you are in 20s or 30s, you are adding to your life. You are adding to your network. You are adding to your network as well as net worth also. But it is not adding up to your with up to a good relationship with your future self. So help us understand this part, that about removing things from your life, and rather than adding up, and also how to build up that relationship with your future self.
Okay. So two different questions there. You might need to remind me to get me back on track. But yeah, building that relationship with your future self requires clarity on where somebody wants to go. Again, who they want to become, where want to be, and what they want to be doing. And my goals, what makes life meaningful and fulfilling for me, is going to be different than what makes it meaningful and fulfilling for you, AJ. So people need to be clear on what's important to them and have an idea of a destination, where they want their life to end up. Um, it's like putting a puzzle together. When you're putting all those pieces, you're trying to fit it all in. If you have a picture of what the puzzle is supposed to look like, or what you think it should look like, you're able to fit those pieces in a little bit better. It's finding what your purpose and passions are, and that's really difficult. It takes a lot of time, but what that does, it gets people to think more future focused. It gets them out of the moment. That even if what they want in the future is fuzzy, simply pulling them out of themselves, out of the moment, still helps them make better decisions. And your question about removing things, um, when we make decisions, again, we're often making them in the moment, looking at what is the immediate payoff, rather than looking at how does this decision fit into where I want to be in the future. So it's like building a house. We're going to have some sort of a sketch of a rendering of what we want that house to look like when it's complete. We want to see, does this decision I'm making today, does it fit? And if not, we need to get rid of it. If this piece, this part, this tool doesn't fit with what we're trying to create, we should probably remove it. And a lot of people I'm gonna mix some metaphors here right now, but a lot of people are adding things to their life. They're adding decisions, they're adding activities that aren't in alignment with who they want to be, who they want to become, and where they want to be. So it actually slows them down. It distracts them from the path. It's like, somebody on this long journey filling up a backpack with things that they don't need. Somebody else might need them. They might not be bad things, but if they don't help you get to your destination, they aren't going to be a benefit. Now, some of these things like debt, debt always slows you down. Debt is, I think, one of the biggest hindrances, both financially and psychologically, from living financial freedom. But it can be activities in your job. Unfortunately, here in America, we have learned to equate busyness and activity with productivity. And if we feel we're moving around, we're doing a lot of things, then we must be doing the right thing. And it's simply not the case. And a lot of times we are very efficiently doing things that we don't need to be doing at all. Again, they're not in alignment with who we want to become. So I think from a financial standpoint, people accumulate debt that is harmful. They buy things to impress people that they don't even like. They can't afford it. They don't need it. They buy it anyways, and uh, they spend money, they spend time, they spend effort in areas that really don't connect with them. And I think that's the idea of streamlining, getting things in alignment, and removing the distractions, removing the burdens and encumbrances. And again, what might be a burden for me on my journey might be a benefit to you. So people need to get really clear about what's important to them.
Absolutely, Chad. Absolutely. And you see, it is when that journey you begin or you are in the midst of that journey, you always need a friend, a philosopher, and a guide. And everybody does not have the good fortune to meet Chad. So how should one, where and how should one get that right kind of friend, philosopher, and guide who tell them about not about the journey of life, also about the things that they should not add, and also about how to start their financial planning, at that point in time. Not everyone is a financial planner or somebody who, like you, who has a coaching mindset and the heart of a teacher that he will bring to financial planning and investing. How does one find someone like you, or who is it that they can, talk about such things at whatever stage they are in?
Well, obviously, I'm a little biased, AJ. I think it's important that people have a coach, they have a guide along their financial journey. I believe that somebody's financial future is too important to try to do it alone. And folks can get in touch with us. They can get in touch with people like us. But it's also important to have that community around you, like-minded people in your life that might not be an expert. They might not be a professional. They're alongside you. They add camaraderie. They add accountability. AJ, this is a marathon. This is building financial independence, building a life of purpose and meaning. It's a long-term, very long path. It requires endurance. It requires resilience. And my endurance and resilience sometimes gets really thin. And I need to rely on the patience and discipline of the people around me. And here in the US, we don't talk a lot about finances. It's kind of a taboo subject. And I think that's bad. I think that's harmful, because what we do is we end up making mistakes in private, and out of shame or out of guilt or whatever that emotion is, we don't want to share them. And then our friends make the same mistakes rather than coming together and encouraging each other. In fact, I was listening to a podcast the other day. They're talking about a gentleman, the first person who broke the 2-hour marathon. He had his friends run with him as pace setters. Now they were not marathon runners. They weren't world-class runners, but they would come alongside him for different periods of his runs to help him set the pace, to encourage him, to keep him going, and to make sure that he was still on track. And I think in finance, we very much need the same thing. People to encourage us, remind us, hey, is this decision you're about to make, is that in alignment with your future goals? Or when things are difficult, encouraging people, hey, yeah, I know that your job's a struggle right now, or I know that maybe there's a medical emergency you had to pay for. Like, this is tough. Let's get through it. Keep persevering. Keep doing what you know you need to do. Things will get better. And I think having that community again of like-minded people, does it make it easy? No, but it makes it easier and it makes it sustainable. And a lot of people, when it comes to investing in finance, they're worried about optimal. They're worried about perfect. And AJ, perfect doesn't exist. There's no perfect investment. There's no perfect budget. What we want is sustainability, something that people can stick to over decades. Having the right people around you is critical. So I just encourage your audience, talk to their friends, people who are like-minded, that really, really care about them, that want what's best for them, and create a mastermind, so to speak, of like-minded community members that can encourage you, and you can encourage them as well.
Right, right. You also talk about, investing strategically for a desired outcome and not merely about collecting investments. Help us understand this. A lot of people, when they make some money, they think, they are like Warren Buffett. They are investing money in the right places. But the market, when it goes different, then the story is totally different. So help us understand about this strategically investing and as well as not collecting investments.
So I'm glad you brought up Warren Buffett, because he is extremely strategic about his investments. He will not invest in things that he doesn't understand, and they are very careful. Berkshire Hathaway, his company, is very, very careful to research and make sure that what they are purchasing is in alignment with where their company is going. And a lot of folks don't have that. They are collectors of investments. They're just gathering up various investments. There's often not a strategic plan. It's like building a house without a blueprint. You're just going through a hardware store, buying tools and materials over years and years and years. And when it comes time to retire, then you try to scramble together and figure out how to build a house. And it shouldn't be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. Again, if you start out with a long-term vision of what you think you're going to need, how much of your income you're going to replace. And these are things that we help folks with every day. And there's a lot of other financial planners that can do that. But helping people get clear on what they're trying to build, and then we reverse engineer it. We create a financial blueprint of sorts. What that does is it helps bridge that gap between today me and future me. That financial blueprint connects those two entities. And it also helps guide saving, investing decisions, because it allows us to see what we're building. Does this investment fit in to the financial house I'm trying to create in the future? If not, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad investment. It just doesn't fit my financial house. And if people have that type of clarity, it allows them to strategically build towards a desired outcome instead of just accumulating and collecting investments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And where does good habits or better habits figure in between? You talk about creating better habits and that can improve our lives. And so when you are talking about purpose and financial planning, what sort of habits come into the picture?
Well, you had somebody on your show recently. It was actually on my wife's birthday, just a few days ago, talking about resilience. And resilience, I think, is a habit that we can create. Planning for the future is not easy. Again, it's a marathon. It takes a lot of endurance. It takes persistence. But there will be setbacks. People want life to look like a staircase where every step brings them a little bit higher. In fact, I think a lot of people want life to be like an escalator. They just stand there and this thing brings them up. And that's just not how life goes. It's not how investing goes. Here in Alaska, we have a lot of mountains and they're jagged, and it isn't a straight shot. It's like this. You have to cross a lot of valleys before you continue to climb. And so we tell people every step brings you closer to your goal, but not every step brings you to a higher elevation. Again, sometimes you have to go down before you come back up. And it requires people to really dive into those habits and execute them, continuing to take those steps forward, even if it feels like they're not going in the right, even if it feels like they've lost ground. You think about somebody climbing like Mount Everest. They're going up and then back down multiple times. They're trying to acclimatize. They're trying to get used to this new elevation, and they have to do a lot of backtracking. Investing can sometimes feel like that. And right now, a lot of people, their investments, their mutual funds, their 401ks, they might be worth less today than they were a year and a half ago. That's a normal part of investing. And when you have a long-term view, you can see that, wow, I'm buying some of the best companies in the world on sale right now. But if you don't have a long-term view, then it feels like you're losing money. Now, it looks the exact same when you open up your account statement, when you open up your online portal, but how you experience it is very different based on your perspective. So creating those habits of discipline and patience and continuing to add your investments, as long as they're the right investments, once you've determined these investments fit in with my long-term future, continuing to add, and if folks can automate that so they don't have to make that decision every month, it comes directly out of their checking account, directly out of their paycheck. It makes it easier. For some people, they need to break habits. This goes back to, what do people need to remove? Sometimes it's breaking the habits of looking at this every day. We can see our net worth across the bottom of our screen. People have it on their phones, their stock portfolio, their mutual funds. It's terrible. It's going back to that orchard. It's like a farmer who's planted these trees that are meant to sustain him for decades, going out every morning, digging up the trees, checking the roots, measuring the branches. Like no farmer would do that, but we do that with our investments. We check them every day. And what I tell people is, I'm not so concerned about what your investments are worth today, tomorrow, or even 6 months from now. I'm worried about how much income they can produce over your life. So if we go back to that orchard metaphor, it's not about how much you could sell your trees for today. It's how much fruit they can produce over your lifetime. That's the focus. And that's what makes good habits difficult, though, is good habits usually enact, they usually require a cost. There's a price in the short term. Now, the benefits are long term, but bad habits often have an immediate payoff. There's pleasure or relief. Now, the negative side effects can last a long time. You think of somebody, eating a big piece of cake instead of some vegetables. The cake is more pleasurable, or candy or something like that. But there's a long-term consequences attached to it. But because we get that immediate payoff, bad habits are often reinforced in the short term. And good habits, again, like putting money towards your future, it feels like a payment. If you don't have a good relationship with your future self, it feels like you're paying a stranger, and it can feel like a cost. So that's why habits are so important, because it's not what you do it's not what you do every once in a while that matters. It's what you do every day, what you do on a regular basis. And the difference between people who are successful financially and people who are floundering financially is the people who are successful do consistently what the people who are unsuccessful do only occasionally. And again, it's this idea of sustainability. What can you do day after day, month after month to put you in a better position? It isn't about making some great financial decision one day.
Absolutely, absolutely. One thing I wanted to understand for the audience, Chad, is that when you work about or think about building a relationship with your future self, who you think is a stranger or even an alien, and you are paying to that person almost, how do you do that? And at the same time, you are also doing justice to your present self, to your present moment, and also the people around you in your present your situation. How do you manage that, calibrate that, build that bridge between the present and the future?
That's a great question, and it's It's a question I think a lot of people miss, because you have some people who are natural spenders that naturally live more in the moment. You have people who are natural savers that naturally want to live for the future. But sometimes the people who are natural spenders unnecessarily sacrifice the future for the present. Sometimes people who are natural savers unnecessarily sacrifice the present for the future. You're asking, how do you find the balance between the two? And we want to remind people that every decision you make, a sacrifice is made. Sometimes you sacrifice the present for the future. Sometimes you sacrifice the future for the present. But there has to be a healthy balance. And this is why it's so important to have a plan and strategic goals. Because if people know how much income they need to replace in the future, if they have a target, we tell people everybody has a retirement number. There's a finite amount of investments that people need to accumulate. There's a finite size to their orchard, so to speak, that they need to build that can reliably produce the income that they'll need. And if they build it beyond that, it might be some extra buffer and that might add some security. But at some point, if they continue to build this up and continue to sacrifice, they might just be dying on a bigger pile of money. And is it worth the additional sacrifice? We work with a lot of folks in the oil industry. They spend half the year sometimes up on the North Slope in Alaska, 40, 50 below Fahrenheit, and it's dark and it's miserable. It's a big sacrifice. They're away from their kids. They're away from their spouses. How much of that is necessary to get them to where they need to go? If they don't have a plan, if they don't have a financial target, they don't know when enough is enough. So some people end up sacrificing too much in the present, and they might get to retirement. In fact, I interviewed a guy. I'm in the middle of writing a book on the mindset necessary for creating a better financial future. And we're interviewing a lot of folks from the oil field. I interviewed a guy who's a multi-millionaire in his 50s. He's worth probably between $8 and $10 million, very, very wealthy. And he told me, he said, I wish I had a plan, because I have sacrificed almost every meaningful relationship in my life to get here. I have more money than I need, but I don't have the people around me. I don't have the close friendships. He was talking about a woman who he thought of her as his soulmate, and realized he drove her away because he was so intent sacrificing for the future that he sacrificed almost everything meaningful in the present. And that a plan, having a financial blueprint, can prevent people, or at least reduce the risk that they do that, because they'll know this is how much every month needs to go to my future self. I can enjoy some of these things in the moment because I'm putting enough away. I'm paying my future self enough. I can do some things for me in the moment right now. Does that help answer that question?
Absolutely, very, very well. And not just this question, but all the questions. It's almost like, some sort of an manual people can refer to as they go along in their journey. And I hope as many people, if they can watch this show or listen to this, or even read about in the blog that I will certainly write on this one, that will be very, very great. This is the whole purpose of this podcast. There is so much to learn from you, understand from you, Chad. And this is just one podcast. There is so much to learn from you directly. So how can they learn more from you? What is the best way to, connect with you and also professionally engage with you with Veritas Wealth Management?
Well, we have, our website is veritasalaska.com. And we are nationwide. We have a few folks internationally we work with as well. We're founded here in Alaska, so we've just been using that website. So veritasalaska.com. We're also on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably my biggest social media presence. Just look at Chad Hufford Alaska, or Google, or search Chad Hufford Veritas on LinkedIn. You can find us there. And we try to always be putting up encouraging content to better educate people, and also encourage them to be part of that pace setter, to keep them going when they feel like slowing down, and or maybe to slow them down when they might be going too fast. That's that idea of balance, right? This is a marathon. It's about keeping a sustainable pace. So those are the best ways to get a hold of us. And people can even email us at ask veritasalaska.com if they have questions, they have concerns, there's specific things that people want to learn more about.
Wonderful. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
It's my pleasure, AJ. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.